the recipients don't view you as human anymore, because your needs are not the same as theirs. Suddenly, you've been giving for so long, you've created this dependency thing for so long in such a toxic way that now all they expect is for you to give. The day you stop giving, don't accept that which you cannot give out. Don't give out that which you do not have, because you can't give what you don't have.
Even those people who have found God, you find the most kohlagalat people at church who know God, who know scripture, who are the most amazing people in quoting scripture. Some of them are even pastors, or they're even leaders at the church. But like, how does a person claim to know God and they seem like they do know so much about the good book and they know so much about God, but yet still
For me,
just have that dark side?
Labo for me are just evil people who are hiding in the church.
I get you. Welcome to the Hustlers Corner once again. Thank you so much, guys, for being a part of this. Thank you so much for showing us love on the morning show, 6 to 9 a.m. on South Africa's fastest growing radio station, Radio 2000. And we are on the morning show, South Africa's #1 breakfast show. And thanks to you guys. I appreciate the support. All right, let's start with those who are interested in property or land. Go to www.ekasinobleproperties.com. I'll put the link in the description if you're looking for opportunities in North Riding Equestrian Estates, or if you're looking to be a part of development that's coming up at Corner Bears Nodia and College Road next to Lanseria Airport, Silver Star Casino, not far from Krugersdorp, Johannesburg, north of Johannesburg, prime area next to all the amenities, Curo schools, hospitals, beautiful area. We are doing at Bears Nodia 200 homes, 100 apartments. And then in North Riding, we are doing 140 houses. So it's basically totally up to you. You just want to acquire the land, or you want to just buy a building package so we can build for you. Just go check out the available opportunities now over there on www.ekasinobleproperties.com. I'll put the link in the description. Thank you once again for tuning in. We drop episodes every Monday at 12 o'clock. Let's gather here. Every Monday at 12 o'clock noon South African time. Let us gather here. She's no stranger. She's a family. I have not seen her in a while. I owe lots and lots of apologies, but I'm always glad to reconnect with her because every time she forgives me, right? It's like my sister. Mandisa. I'm good. You look stunning.
I do.
Stunning.
Thank you.
Not you just fresh out of a Vogue magazine cover.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's pushing it.
Guys, you must see her shoes. You must see her handbag. You must see her entire dress. You must just stand next to her and just how she smells. Awudlali nathi bathini usidlalisa ama half ground.
Yanhlonipha. I'm trying to put my best foot forward.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a sign of respect,
We appreciate.
Just being neat.
Yeah.
And smelling a little fresh.
Not a little
but
fresh.
Nothing could be fresher than you landing a night. I love Radio 2000, by the way. Well done.
Ngiyabonga, you know.
I love them. I love them to bits.
I'm so excited.
I'm constantly stalking Paul when I think he does Saturdays or Sundays.
No, he does. Actually, he's on Monday to Friday and on Saturdays
and
also.
on Saturdays, yeah. So now and then I'm stalking him. I'm like, oh, okay, I like that song. Please repeat it.
Yeah.
I'm always sending stalking vibe stuff to him when he's on air. So I'm going to be doing the same to you.
And guess what? I was actually, when I was approached, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I've been having such a great time. Jeez, I miss radio, hey? My plan was to drag you and Penuel.
Oh, wow. They were never going to allow that.
I'm telling you. I don't think they didn't allow it, but I guess it was a matter of there already is a team. There already are amazing, talented, experienced, a team of people. And then, involve the guys on features or whatever, work with the guys, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if it was according to me, my number one first prize was to build my own team. And
Oh, wow.
I was planning to drag, and I even asked them, there's only just 2 people I'd like to
Oh,
bring
that is
along.
amazing. Out of the
Like-
60 million South Africans.
It's like Penuel and Sis Mandisa. And I'm explaining to them who you guys are. They know you, but then again, I don't think it was a no
Yeah.
per se. It was just
Yeah.
a matter of we already have a team, and obviously in growing the station.
And the SABC is struggling financially. I mean, that's not a secret. They've been struggling for a long time. So, I mean, they laid off quite a lot of people, I think, at some point.
And
Remember
budgets,
when
I
they
mean,
had-
you guys don't come cheap.
Well, I mean, on national radio, if I had to have a conversation with anybody from national radio or TV, they would obviously have to pay. I mean, it would have to be worth my while and worth their while. And it would have to be just mutually beneficial like anything else. I mean, they're mainstream. They've been around forever. They're a public broadcaster, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
So they should be able to afford people that they think would be of value to them, I think you're a great value add to them. By
Thank
all
you.
means. But
Thank
I mean,
you.
from what I've seen, Radio 2000 has been growing, hey? I
Yeah,
think it's
we-
the
we-
only station that's been growing.
We are currently the fastest growing radio station officially in South Africa.
Oh, wow. Not just part of as part of the public broadcaster
The whole
network.
country, yeah. On
That is
all radio
amazing.
stations.
That is amazing.
The latest numbers have just come out. We're on just 1.9 something, just a little under 2 million.
Listeners.
Yeah,
So,
and we're
so
hope-
your pressure is to not drop the ball.
And I'm not scared about
It's
that.
to keep increasing. No, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I'm not being arrogant. It's because of you guys.
you know what I think is amazing about you? You're able to build an audience almost in everything that you do. I don't know if you've realized that that's your strength. Like you can literally, I mean, since I knew you from YFM days,
Yes, ma'am.
those were your young days. Of course, you were doing DJing on the side, the usual song and dance here DJing. But everything that you get involved in you make sure that you get the necessary exposure. I really think that's what I admire most about you.
I appreciate that.
You know.
I admire your mind. I
You
admire your
do.
intelligence. I
Thank
admire
you.
your fearlessness. But the one thing I admire the most about you is your love for people.
Do I love people?
Yeah. The things
I
that you've
can't help
done,
it.
the sacrifices that you've made
I
for
have.
people, for this country.
I have.
People like yourself usually could have easily have become selfish and become wealthy all by themselves and just focusing on themselves and their families. But you have just been one of those people that have been drawn towards because of your love for the people, your fearlessness, and just your intelligent mind.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. I never used to admit it to myself, but I think I'm grown up enough now to know that I took a big sacrifice from my career at some point to focus on public work. But it was worth it. I think it was worth it because anything that teaches you more about the human condition or human beings, about, how human beings operate. We're very different in different scenarios. When we're in need of something, we behave differently. We behave differently to when we don't need something. I was just talking to a friend earlier and I was trying to say to her, I get the feeling that when you feel you need me, you become available. And it's kind of like an imbalanced relationship. And when I have a friend and I value that friendship and I think this person's a good friend, I like to be honest with them. So I kind of like was saying that to them. So you learn a lot about human beings, about how people behave towards you based on your circumstances or their circumstances and all of that. So it's good to do public good work. I think everybody should give themselves a chance, either later in life or much earlier, whenever, it suits your circumstances. Plan it. And take maybe 5 years just doing good work, especially if you can afford it. If you've got enough money, you don't have mortgage bills and car payments and stuff, and your life is basically debt free and you've got, regular income. Try and do some good for, for society. But even in the political space, by the way, it has its benefits. Yes, of course, it's a toxic space because of the rules of engagement there. But it's still, it's still something that makes you feel good and gives you a lot of insights into human beings. And as a result, you end up growing. It's painful. Some of it is extremely painful, lots of fun, very demanding. Human beings are just like that. You give them, bathini ngesiZulu, ngikunika
Ubanikeza
isandla.
isandla bafuna ingalo yonke.
Yes, you soon learn that, especially if you're an empath like myself. I used to be an empath. I'm a recovering empath.
What is an
I always
empath?
say, an empath is somebody who genuinely feels for people. It's something that
I
comes
get you.
naturally to
Okay.
them. The kind of people who'd share their lunch at school when they were still little kids. The kind of person who'd go and defend someone who's being bullied without being asked. You know, somebody who would offer to do stuff without being asked, as long as they see a need. And for me, that's how I've always been. And I realized very late in my life that it's actually a disease, a sickness to be an
I've been
empath.
like that as well because I ran an education foundation for quite some time. They say a lot of people who've done that similar type of work, especially for many decades or even older, they say working for black people, you should work on agape love, where you give them love unconditionally, because they say it is a thankless job. Have you ever gotten a feeling of getting irritated or mhlambe ubangalele, or where you kind of feel like you regret you could have just lived your selfish life and enriched yourself? Do you sometimes
Yeah,
feel like ngathi uyabadinekela?
I do. No, I do. I
Yeah.
mean, you have one child, I have one child. So
Yeah.
we have that as well in common. But if both of us had more kids, like, 4, 5, 6 kids, like the classical environments we grew up in, sikhule nabo gogo nanani, it's the same feeling you get mkhulisa umntanakho and they get to maybe they're mid to late teens and they really start to be become their own person, an adult, and they start to have their own personality, and they start feeling like they have more rights in your life than they really should, and they start and they stop wanting to go and live their own lives, they become initially aggressive and very, anti parents when they enter the teenage stages, but when they get into the vibe, it's like and you look at this person and you're like, yo, what bengenzani? Why did I bring this person? Then they start to drain you financially. They start to blame you. When people get older, they start getting older, their brain functions a bit differently. They start thinking, oh, but my mother should be doing more for me, or my father should be doing more for me. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, can you not be an appendage on
It's
my
like if only
body?
you knew.
Can you just be independent, do your own thing and stuff? So that's how it feels. Like after a while, you do good work, and I'm sure you've experienced it. And in fact, what I found is that the good work you do um, is not as valuable as business work where you're working for profit. It's not as valued and it's as valuable to society. It's a fact. In society, when you're an empath, the reason I'm a recovering empath is because when you're an empath, instead of people being grateful, and I'm not saying people must always be grateful to me, I'm a very grateful person myself. I literally I've been raised that way. You must be grateful for every little thing, even for going to bed on an empty stomach, but at least you had a glass of water with sugar in it. Then you must be grateful for that water and sugar,
Yeah.
So gratitude is just part of who I am. But you find that mawusebenza nabantu for their benefit, because there's no balance. You're coming into a space where you are coming to benefit somebody else. The only benefit for you is that feeling that I've done something good for someone else. That's definitely a benefit for you. It's a private benefit. It could be an emotional, it could be psychosocial, spiritual benefit. But that's about it. There's no other benefit. The rest of it is just what's the opposite of a benefit? Maybe a loss. It's financial, it requires your energy, it requires your time, it requires even your patience, because people test your patience a lot, either by design or not. But you get to a point where you're like, what am I getting out of this? And as an empath, you do that after segumoshegile. Yes, you would have done good. Yes, people would have benefited. And now and then your ego, I'm an egoless person. I completely have no ego. Yes, I'm very confident. And often people who are toxic cannot separate between confidence and arrogance and ego. Ego is just a devil that I've never had. As an empath, it's very difficult to have an ego as well. The two don't exist together. You
Yeah.
might be very confident, but you're egoless, which is the best way to exist. But because you're egoless, you can't. You find it difficult to say no. And because you're egoless, you can't lie. The two don't go together. Liars tend to be people with big egos because they have to say things and do things and create impressions that are not real in order to build this person, this
Facade.
To feed their ego based on whatever it is that they think people want to see. But then again, you can't blame them because people are that way. Most people are very material, very physical, so most people will actually encourage the ego driven sort of way of life. And so being a recovering empath, one of the things that I've really, really, really come to appreciate now that I'm and that I'm looking at the empath in me differently. Yes, those moments of giving, those actions of giving, those interactions and engagements and whatever else that I would have given, are precious. I think they are beautiful. I wouldn't have done it any other way. But I think had I been as smart as I am now, I would have given differently.
How would you have given?
I would have given with the understanding that human beings find it difficult to appreciate, or even when we feel appreciation inside, but to show appreciation, we find showing appreciation very, very difficult because of the ego. Sometimes we think that if I'm grateful, I'm going to come across as needy or desperate. Like if I say please and thank you and I love it when you do that for me, or just a random phone call when you just call somebody and you're like, oh, you know what, I'm so grateful to have you in my life. I just want you to know, should I never ever have the opportunity, so it's not easy for empaths to have an ego and to lie, etc., because we literally exist for service to humanity through whichever way. You're a tree hugger, whether you're an environmentalist, whether you care about education, early childhood development, whether you care about training up youngsters who want to be entrepreneurs, whether you care about your extended family members who are in need, whether you are just that person in the family, and so you're always busy nama problems wabantu abadala, and you're the first person that pops to mind in your family when they need something done. Because sebayakwazi angithi ubafundisile ukuthi you never say no. Even when you say no, you feel guilty, and then you send money. And you send money that you didn't have. I do that very often, and I'm like, oh, I'm a good negotiator. The people I owe, I don't owe individuals, I owe businesses. I'm happy to owe the bank. I don't care. I mean, I really don't care. I can owe them from here to Cairo. It doesn't bother me. That's their job. But, I know that I can talk to my bank, and ask for a little extension. They trust me. I'd rather put myself out. Those are some of the things that made me decide to exit empathy.
And you also find that other people, they look at you like, when you don't have your own problems. It's like you've got it all
figured out. You don't have problems.
It's like when you've got it all figured and not
that
to
is
blame
actually
them.
the message you're sending
and not
to
to
them.
blame them because of the type of person
no,
that
but
you
that's
are.
No, take responsibility, right? That is exactly the message you're sending to them. Remember we had that conversation about the breadwinner thing? And I know it clashes with our family values and our cultural values and native values as Africans, as indigenous people who must always be caring for, all things nature. But that is the message you're sending. Every time you say yes, 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 you never have a no. You're literally just sending that message to the person. And if this person is really existing in a space where they have very little, hope in terms of their physical, material conditions, they're living in despair most of the time and worry and stress. It's natural for them to think, oh, okay, it's in Mandisa. She never, it's not in a toxic way. They're not thinking, oh, she can't say no, she'll never say no. They're just thinking she loves to help. And the inverse doesn't apply. The opposite doesn't apply. When you need the beneficiaries as an empath, the beneficiaries of your empathy, they're almost never there, right? And you already know that angeke lo muntu azabe available mesengimdinga. You can see because the signs were long there. It's a one-way relationship. They don't even see the need to have to specifically say thank you to you because they just assume that you're doing this because you love it so much. And and that's true. And so because you love it so much, why should they thank you? And then also the naivety of our society. Sometimes, especially depending on the community you're dealing with, if it's a community, sometimes, the capitalist, imperialist, neo-colonial or neo-capitalist environment we live in has created an impression that when somebody is generous, they have to be rich. There's no way that anybody could be that generous and helpful and be poor. And that's toxic, right? That's very, very toxic. Because then it creates entitlement on the other side. So those are all the reasons I really reviewed myself as an empath. Because my empathy is not just in society. I mean, even in my relationships, friendships, family relations, you know, the few intimate relationships I've had, it just oozes out of who you are. You know, that you're always willing to roll over and give and give and give and give. But the flip side of it, which is actually the positive side of it for me, is that it confirms what I've always known, and I just couldn't put it into words. For me, that deep sense of being empathetic towards other people before I can even be empathetic to myself. Yes, of course, I'm very empathetic to myself, but to the degree that I was doing it for others, there was no balance. I was less empathetic to myself then. Is that I think I didn't have the language to describe it, but I now understand that it's because for some reason I was always born. I mean, I was born always feeling like I'll never lack, like almost as a cliche. Like I feel I'm an abundant person.
Yeah, same here.
My personality is abundant.
Yeah, yeah.
I can flip, and that's how I used to justify. And I think I was raised that way. To whom much is given, much more is expected. You know, whether it's manipulation, I don't know. But, you know, we grew up hearing things like that. And Ubuntu, you know, umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu, izandla
I am
ziyagezana.
because you are.
The karma thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Which is all valid and true. But the part that I allowed to continue unbridled was not managing the balance. It's very important to manage balance, you know, to the point where you can seem selfish and all the negative things that go with self-centeredness. But it's very, very important to manage the balance. Because if you don't manage the balance, human beings are creatures of habit. Neuroscience tells you that. If you repeat something often enough, it becomes culture for you. It becomes a habit, and you just keep doing it simply because you now wake up and you do this and you keep doing it, and now it's habit. So human beings are like that. We respond to outside stimulus, and if you have a one directional relationship with people, a person, there's no incentive for the other person to do something different because you are now hypnotizing them into a one day. You're always giving.
So basically,
hypnotizer.
You are to blame to create that sense of entitlement.
Dependency. Yes.
So you are to blame.
I am to
not
blame.
them.
No, exactly.
Because you've created it. You've allowed it. You've made it a culture. And now when you start saying you're a recovering empath, and you start making certain decisions to put a no here or a stop here or a war here, not that much all of a sudden so umuntu slech.
No.
But you're sort of starting to put boundaries. You're starting to say no a little bit more. You're starting to have, you know what I mean?
I'm even conscious of conversations now.
You then on the other side start creating, and I don't know in your experience, a mindset as if like, kwenzakaleni sekatshintshile akasangifuni or since aso sekakhohlakele or since sekakule position
yes,
you know. But how do you also explain that to the ones that you care about, that no, the reason why I'm doing this is actually because I care about you even more?
It's also because we are both human and both of us have a finite time on earth. And none of us has been told when we are dying. Maybe one or two lucky people have been told. But majority of us, we don't know when we are dying. But what we know for a fact is we are dying. In fact, you are dying as you are seated here because your body is busy aging. You're just fighting the aging process by making sure you maintain your health because you need to be strong and fit in order to work and earn a living and live a good life and plan for your retirement, etc. But the reality is that it needs to get to a point where you tell this person, I'm not superhuman. And where I gave you lang thola khona, you know, masiti magwande la uthole khona, you know, that's the reciprocal, that's the sign of the reciprocity of, our native indigenous lives as Black people, that, whatever you give me, I'm aware you got it from somewhere. So not only must I be grateful, but I must also wish you a bottomless well of fortune where you got that from. I cannot be trying to put you down while I'm depending on you in this one directional relationship where you're giving, 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 giving. And, yes, I'm grateful, but that's all I'm doing. I need to give you something back to refuel you, even if it's just some sort of admiration and some sort of appreciation or something I can actually do for you in exchange that doesn't cost me more, that doesn't cost me anything that I can't afford, to put in as a capital in order to do that thing for you. Maybe I've got a certain skill, maybe I have relationships with certain people that you want to be closer to. All of those things are beautiful things. Maybe there's just admin in your business that you're stuck with and you can't afford to employ someone. Like, you know what, you've done so much good for me. Can I help you with some admin? I'm very good at this and that. I give you a list. Oh, I'm good at this, that, and the other. Tell me what you need, right? To show gratitude. But the fact that ngesintu kunezinto, kunezisho, izandla ziyagezana, etc., like we're speaking about, that's demonstration and evidence that we have always been aligned with nature. We've always understood, and we do understand the importance of existing in balance. And so if you're an empath, and you just know how to be an empath all the way. And I don't blame my parents. I thank them. I appreciate them. My parents raised me that way. My grandmother raised me that way. To give back in society. It doesn't matter how poor we were, but we were always not the poorest. So my parents raised us, especially my father and my grandmother, paternal grandmother, always emphasize that, always be conscious of yourself, be aware of yourself at all times, and look at your surroundings and look at what majority of the people have and they don't have materially. And then ukugweba umona, envy. Try not to show people that, you have things they don't have. Because if that goes on for long, then there's resentment, then they hate you. You don't know why they hate you. So in order ukugweba leyo nto, give a little so that people can feel less. But what has the capitalist environment done? It's like the conversation I was having with your daughter, I remember last year, and I was explaining to her, for you, if you want to be a success at being a genius, because you can be a genius, that in and of itself is not a success. You're going to have to learn how to balance sharing your knowledge and holding that which belongs to you, which you are entitled to. After all, you're working for that knowledge. You make an effort to read and to learn and to practice. Give a little, do extra classes now and then, not to your detriment. What an empath would do would just be doing extra classes wire, and realize 2 weeks before exams, angaka studishi for myself. Kunama sections engakawa kremi. So there's a need for constant balance. You can't be giving so much all the time without a full stop and a comma to please people.
And why is it that when you give, or when you're so giving, say for example, let's talk about money. Why is it that when you give, or even when you lend people money, why is it that they never bring it back?
They never give it back. And then the awkwardness.
Why?
And then that awkwardness when you have to ask for it.
When you ask for it, it's like now you the bad person. So much so that sometimes, and even to a lot of people, it has ruined relationships when you were the one who was being nice all along, giving or lending money. But they don't give it back. Like, what causes people to not? Do they think where they got it from, where you got it from, you got a lot of it when?
So the reason I'm a recovering empath is also that. Because I got tired of, I was saying earlier, it's almost like the recipients don't view you as human anymore. Because your needs are not the same as theirs. Suddenly, you've been giving for so long, you've created this dependency thing for so long, in such a toxic way that now all they expect is for you to give. The day you stop giving, you are a dog, you are a this, you are like bazohamba bakhuluma ngawe everywhere. This happens to me. It still happens to me. Where I hear with, Uzbanbani said this and that about you. And I just laugh because now I have a full understanding. I'm like, oh, shame, man, little people are like that. And that's not to say I'm better or I'm bigger. No, I'm not. But I think you're a little person if all you do in life is not to respect nature, not to respect the balance of nature, not to respect the laws of nature, which are scientific, which are just basically laws of uba umuntu. What you expect somebody to do for you, don't let them do that thing for you if you can't do it for that person or another person in return. Don't accept that which you cannot give out. Don't give out that which you do not have, because you can't give what you don't have. And so we overgive. And the result of overgiving is exactly that, where the person has now built an entitled, they've given themselves a title in your life, and they are now entitled as a result of that title of being a receiver from you. The day ungasafuni or ungakhoni, I learned it the hard way. I saw it with my dad. I saw it with my dad. The day he became, older and no longer able to, provide money to people because he was always the breadwinner, people treated him like shit. And, you know, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand. It's like, why are they behaving like this? My dad has been nothing but generous to these people, has given them almost, and that's actually another reason I decided when I had to, start rebuilding my relationship with my dad, because he left the family. And I, out of my own free will, I was nagging everybody in the family. Like, no, I wanted my dad back because I was a daddy's girl. And I missed my dad, you know what I mean? Like, he was the biggest influence in my life after my grandmother, his mother. Or should I say my grandmother's, because I grew up in an extended network with my grandmother and her sisters. But when I realized, I had to start thinking about this. And I was like, wow. So this is what happens when everything has been said and done. So that's what brought me to this conclusion to say, no. I need to review, how I'm doing things. I need to review the addictions I'm creating in others, in how they should behave around me. I need to review my projections, how I project myself to others. If I'm projecting strong girl, if I'm projecting bogoto, what's going to happen? I'm going to have rocks thrown at me. And people will literally say, no, she's strong. She can take it. So all of that is the toxicity. And I took responsibility. I said, no. I don't want to be part of this anymore. One, I'm getting older. I do not want to end up being old and without retirement money, because if you have the money, you can buy a property wherever the hell you want to retire and just, balance your books, see what you can afford for 10, 20 years, however long you think your retirement will be when you start it. And then go and live in an environment where you think you'll be safe and happy and, taken care of. And just go die in peace. I didn't want that. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do the things that my father did. I'm not going to be a giver without balance. I'm sorry, it's going to have to be a balance sheet, an income and expenditure statement. There must be balance. There must be balance. Everything in life exists because we have this balance. Cosmically, in every aspect of our lives, there's men, there's women. I know people will argue about other genders. I'm sorry, I have a right not to believe in other genders. I don't believe in it. I really don't. I believe in male and female. And that creates a balance, that creates a human being, that creates new life. When there's imbalance, you're not going to have new life. There'll be life for others at your expense. And exactly as you say, the day you decide I'm putting a stop to it, because amandla say now, also siyaguga, you get older, and you realize as you get older, I don't want to be ugogo ohlala sesibhedlela. Because I'm 50 now, I'm not going to be 50 in 10 years. In 20 years, I'm going to be 70. In 20 years, in 30 years, I'll be 80. In 40 years, I'll be 90. So, I'm living my life today in order to make sure that I've got a vision of where I want to be tomorrow. And so my bad habits, my addictions, which is addiction to being an empath, wanting to be liked, trying to please everybody. All those are bad habits that I'm dropping. I'm no longer giving into anything and anyone that, in my analysis and conclusion, is literally just here to take.
It's so interesting what you said about your father, because I experienced it a couple of years ago. You know, I changed my lifestyle. I've had my own rough patches. And a lot of all this amazing work I was doing, and a lot of other people that I've helped,
Yeah.
as you're talking about your father, obviously I experienced it earlier, which is a couple of years ago. Once you put that stop, or you sort of turn down the volume of being too there, or of giving too much, and becoming this recovering addict who's sort of rearranging their life, then they hate you. And then back jigela. But then because you still care about them, should you care about how you're being treated, and even being the person that you are, sometimes you can't verbalize also what you are also going through.
Yeah.
You'd rather keep quiet, right?
Yeah.
And when you sort of now do need, sometimes it's not money that you need from people, support, care, even just a phone call,
Yeah.
a little lunch over there, but just that feeling of now feeling with at least other people also care about me. It's like nobody's there for you.
Yeah.
It's like people blue tick you.
Yeah.
It's like nobody
do.
cares. As you are saying, good, they treated your father horribly.
Yeah.
As if this thing you're good, ngathi awusena mali, or ngathi you're not giving anymore, or ngathi you are in need
Imoto
wena.
endala,
It's like
basically.
ngathi nobody is willing to help you. And not one person, not
It's
even
like
three.
it's
Not
personal.
even, it's like
it
almost
becomes
everyone.
personal. Yeah.
And then how, and I guess maybe that's what also brings depression to other people.
Yes, definitely to empaths. And I think that there's a lot more empaths out there who are going through. Most of my friends are empaths because you end up attracting people abafana nawe. And one of the most common things, I've identified in my own circles is that Tina, as empaths, lento ishoyo ukuthi, when we start being uncomfortable with this life of imbalance that we have created, we start seeing the reality.
Like
After
impilo ekubonisa
So
iqiniso.
uyayibona
No,
imovie
impilo is so.
manje lebo iphila.
Yeah,
Yes.
khani ubona makuthi hayi man.
Yes, and so you start to realize, oh, okay, oh, shame. Actually,
I was a people pleaser.
you know what's the worst? Yes, I'm a people pleaser, and that's a disease. But also, as an empath, I was not even a proper empath because I wasn't researching and studying where I was giving into. Sometimes you're giving people whom you shouldn't be giving, who are asking for things from you to literally drain you, but to bayathumana.
My mom once said that.
I remember. No, she did.
My mom said, be careful of always giving. Sometimes unikeza abantu abawrong. Lapho obanikeza khona kulapho yodrainiwa ngathi.
They literally are actually ganging up. They gang up, right? They gang up to literally suck you dry, conscientiously or consciously. They're doing it deliberately. Like, trust me, especially in group settings. I don't like group settings. I really hate group settings because in group settings, that's where all this toxicity starts to build, In a group, very quickly, like-minded people search each other. And negative stuff is always the first to find expression. So the ones who like to complain or are lazy or have low self-esteem or, jealous people will club together very quickly. Segnama gossipa, segnama clicks. The first person they click up against is the empath. Because you thinking you're being an empath, but because you're not being mindful about everything you're doing. You're just giving because you're thinking giving is a good thing, but you're actually being stupid and you're being cruel to yourself. But if you sit down and you notice properly, you will actually see the games. Bayathumana literally. No, iyakuloya uzokunika. Alo akakwazi ukuthi no uthanda ukuthandwa. The pain of realizing that they actually hated you. Not because necessarily you're a giver, therefore they thought you were weak. No, they didn't hate you because they thought you were weak. They hate you because they literally think you're stupid, and they even play those games. But hambani niyombuza nizomuza ukuthi uzothini. Uzonipha ngeke azabuza nokuthi why. Ngathi bamloyile. Ngathi bamloyela ukuthi amoshe nje imali yakhe. They literally just play games with you. So I've learned a lot about human beings. For myself, not to get a degree or whatever, but I study human beings. I study their behavior in their different settings and groupings, whether it's the age demographic or geographic demographic or, career, whatever. I look at different people, look at how they behave. And, also I'm a Virgo, so I do that a lot. I'm naturally analytical anyway. So yes, of course I might be painting a dire picture of myself, but it doesn't always. I mean, I am able to say no. I am able to put my foot down, but not to the extent that I should have been, because in any event, you live for yourself first and foremost. Nobody lives for another person, whether it's your child or your mother, or at a certain point you live for others. When your kids are still young, when your parents are old, you have to take care of them. Whether you pay other people to take care of them, that's fine. But you make sure that their well-being, you check up on them, make sure that they have everything they need. So you go through points and times in your life where you have to take care of other people, your pets, vulnerable people in society, etc. But like I was saying, that can only be healthy and beneficial to you if there's no toxicity involved, if there's no people that are out to get you. I mean, if we can take it to the other side of the world, you listen to Liz Tagat. I also then learned to go to, people take the money you give them. If sometimes people ask you for money and they want it in cash, and they'll go and do funny things to it because they are dealing with you. So I would say even 50% of the population of people that you are giving, according to my estimation, in my experience, are really there to deliberately collapse you and drain you. So for the sake of self-preservation, it's extremely important to be a balanced empath if you are still proud of being an empath and you don't see it as a disorder. Because I know other people will say, no, it is a disorder. Don't encourage or push being cruel. I'm not cruel. I'm not saying I'm going to be cruel, but I'm just much more balanced. And let me tell you, I'm very happy being that way. I'm much happier. I literally now understand what it is to live for myself. And I'm not apologetic. Angizoli futhi, like I have no shame. I feel maybe I spent a lot of time doing things for other people and prioritizing and also taking this thing of responsibility seriously. Like skhuliswe njalo ukuthi wena, wena ekhaya kini uyi firstborn, therefore there's always a reason why you must be trained. Either uyi firstborn, umfana, amadoda shame. I always feel sorry for you guys because puti. Yes, I agree, men need to do a lot more for society to pay back for not being able to give birth. But but you, even for you as a man, it's important to fagama breaks to avoid and prevent yourself being abused, because then crying over spilled milk doesn't help. So, and it's important to come to that realization soon enough. Who is worthy of my time? Who is worthy of me giving them my last 100 rand because badinga 100 rand ukugibela itaxi stranded kuphi kuphi? In an emergency situation, yes, I'll help a friend anytime, a relative. If you call me, you've got an emergency, you have had an accident, and people help me out as well. I'm not saying it's been a one-way stream. There's many people who help me. I can get help at the snap of a finger. But because I'm an empath, I take very long.
Yeah, same here.
Self-worth. The whole reason why we are empaths is because the reality is that our extent, the level of self-worth that we have is inadequate. So the people that we've always called selfish, because we try not to judge. As empaths, you're just generally generous with everything, right? You're always a goody two shoe. You're not judging anyone. You're not fighting. When a fight breaks out, I'm out the door. Hey, trust me. I'm out the door. I'm out. I'm was, So, at that point, it's flight or fright. So, yes, of course, you're going to value yourself and try and protect your life. But generally, we don't have a lot of, self-love, because if we did, we would not have overgiven, because we understand that our own resources are not, are not endless.
What causes people to be the opposite of that? What causes people to be bad-hearted, no conscience at all, no nembeza, bakhohlakele umuntu unenhliziyo embi, and they couldn't even give a F. Like, even when they are shown of the bad things they've done or the their behavior or how they treat other people.
Yeah.
Or like they just
Babe
don't care. What
unrepentant.
causes people ukuthi bakhohlakale? Babe dark inside. Babe
Yeah.
nenhliziyo embi.
Yeah. Yeah. I can almost feel somebody like that I used to know. I don't know, but I do suspect, because I did, when I started doing a lot of work on myself, to recover me, the me inside of me, deal with everything that I've had to deal with. I had to go back to basically my birth, understand my life, understand my parents' life, where they came from, how they grew up, and, why they were the way they were, why they are the way they are, and make sense of it all. I also had to do the same for me. And one of the things I realized is that there were lots of things that I was blaming on my childhood, which were legitimate. I think it was legitimate for me to blame those things. But upon further study and a deeper dive, I realized that, yes, those things happened. Yes, maybe there's an adult that should have taken more responsibility to make sure that after certain things happened to me as a child, that I got the necessary, say, counseling or whatever it was to help me recover sort of psychologically if it was traumatic stuff. But they, those adults couldn't do that at the time because those kinds of things were not, available even to them at their disposal. They didn't know those were options that they had to deal with. So I find that a lot of people blame their behavior as adults on their childhood. And there's probably some bioscientific reasons to actually justify that, to say, yeah, that's true. But you can change, right?
Hunters, the proudly South African cider that refreshes like nothing on earth, have teamed up with my brother Tresor, the musician, to give you an opportunity of a lifetime. Guys, remember, before I was a DJ swoo, I entered a talent search competition. Today, I am a DJ swoo. So you never know, this might just be your ticket to the top, to take your career to the next level. Yes, they've teamed up with the multi-award winning pop maverick Tresor and the Jaquel Culture House once again for the Foster the Sound. First initiated back in 2022, the project aims at providing aspiring musicians with unprecedented opportunities for growth and success. You guys do know what Hunters has been doing over the years to empower young people's talent, and this is an opportunity for you. I can't stress that enough. This project embodies the spirit of Ukfoster, a celebration of perseverance, passion, and determination. As some of you guys who've been following my career, you'd know I've always been that person who's been preaching Ukfoster, going for your dreams and just having passion for what you love and just going for your dreams without any limitations or caring about any haters out there. So I'd like for you guys to take advantage of this collaboration between Hunters, a South African cider that refreshes like nothing on earth, the Jaquel Culture House, and my brother Tresor. This is an official call out to all musicians, artists, songwriters, DJs, just all round creatives, beat makers, singers, and anyone with a musical talent who wants to take their career to the next level. During the month of April, this month, guys, Tresor's music team will be listening to all the entries and even perform in front of a panel at the biggest artists in the country. Artists like Musa Keys, Shekinah. Finalists will have the opportunity to get a one-on-one mentorship by Tresor and guest mentors as well. Hunters, the proudly South African cider that refreshes like nothing on earth. The Foster the Sound talent search starts right now. I would just like for you guys to go to the website www.jaquelculturehouse.com, written at the bottom of the screen. Sign up right now. The link is in the description below. That's www.jaquelculturehouse.com. Don't let this opportunity pass you guys. This might just be that opportunity to change your life. As I did say earlier, my life was changed by a talent search opportunity like this one. So good luck to all of you guys, and thank you to Hunters, the South African cider that refreshes like nothing on earth.
Abanye mhlambe bazalwe like that. Who's to know? I don't know. If you look at serial killers and serial rapists and serial child abusers and people who give birth to children and then abuse those kids, physically or whichever other way they abuse them. I don't know. Maybe some of them are born that way, but I do know for a fact that there is a relationship between what you experience in your early childhood, your very, very early childhood, the base of your childhood. There is also an influence on the type of parents that raise you. There's also an effect on I had read about it. I think it was, I can't remember her name, one of my favorite neuroscience psychologists or neuropsychiatrists, who was talking about the relationship between sociopathy, not sociopathy, narcissism, and orphans, or being an orphan. And I'm not saying that in a horrible way. You can go and look it up. There's a relationship that can be drawn from a child who was orphaned at an early stage and didn't have parents, or a mother in particular, and how they turn out later on in life unless there's an intervention. So a lot of it is, and then of course then there's karma, right? There's isn't ozithola because azihlambululwanga.
Generational karma.
Yeah. Angazi ngesintu bazibizani, but you know the reason why umuntu meshona kumele agezwe athini in order to help their sort of ascension. And you know there may be things in their life that they themselves didn't take responsibility for, and there's many things that we do privately that we never tell other people.
And they end up passing on to our children.
They do. They do, literally. That karma is passed on. I was reading something the other day that your karma is mostly inherited from your paternal side. Yeah, even though you generally get your spiritual gifts from your maternal side. Of course, there's spiritual gifts for all. It's just that there's more abundance of spiritual gifts to the feminine figure than the masculine one. But the masculine one passes on your generational karma. And so, you know, if you're lucky enough to have people who mushona will take care of your soul and your spirit properly and make sure that you are cleansed, to cut that so karma is one of the things that contribute to people being so mean. And I mean, I'm saying this also from just studying you know, people like around my own life, and I'm pretty sure they do the same. We study each other, we should, and try to work out, you know, why is my relationship with this person so difficult? Especially if it's family or it's a collective, like if you're a black sheep, like I was a black sheep, and I was always proud of being a black sheep because I understood why I was a black sheep. I could see it, you know, like when you're a black sheep, it's almost like you're born into it. It's like you're just born a black sheep. You just find yourself so a black sheep. Either a ganga or kulumi. You know those kids who are just like quiet.
Or you maybe that one that not everybody.
Nobody understands you.
Yeah.
Baze babuze nabantu abadala ukuthi ufuze bani. Must be at some great grandparent ongasekho. You're lucky if, like me, people live long in your life. You know, people can point out and say, no, wena ufuze uzbani. Bega so. But you end up being the black sheep. Why? Because you're different, and people don't handle difference very, very nicely. If something is different to most of us, if sonke sihambe sayofuza i-genealogy eyi-1 ekhaya, kwafika lo oyi-1 nje one character yakhe singayazi, you know. But for me, people with just horrible personalities, cruel personalities, who have almost like a psychotic or sociopathic, you know, inability, you know, like to be empathetic. For me, are just, you know, sociopaths. But you get those who are not necessarily sociopaths, but they are teetering on the brink of being sociopaths because bakhohlakele uzuzibuza ukuthi hayi lo muntu lo noma ungamlungela kanjani umenzela izinto ezinhle to try and, you know, curry favor with them so that bangakhohlakaleli kakhulu, they continue. And you ask yourself, so I do think a lot of those people have got issues from childhood, and those things can be cleansed. And sometimes it's spiritual stuff, like I said, but most of the time it's stuff that happened to them, traumas they experienced, some traumas they don't even know about, because from what I understand, if a pregnant woman experiences trauma during her pregnancy, the baby takes it on even while they are in the womb as well. So isintu for me has become a very important process of helping me through this process, because I've had to go through a lot of cleansings and a lot of spiritual processes, some of them involving family, most of them on my own, that I've had to get through. And I realized that I got a lot of healing from that, a lot of healing in my process of now readjusting myself to a new person. And I think that also psychologically, or psychosocially, those spiritual healing processes have helped me psychosocially, in a way, have also helped me to resolve some of these problems, have helped me to come to the conclusion that, no, I'm too much of an empath and there's no need to be this way. This is a disorder. It needs to be balanced. If it continues like this, you will collapse.
But also what I want to know is they say you are the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
Right? uNkulunkulu wakho wena.
Yeah.
So the good and the bad, or the heaven and earth,
Yeah.
or the good and evil is all within you.
Yeah.
You choose.
Yes.
Right? But then why is it that even those people who have found God, you find the most kohlagalad people at church
Yeah.
who know God, who know scripture, who are the most amazing people in quoting scripture. Some of them are even pastors or they're even leaders at the church. But umuntu khohlakele, like, how does a person claim to know God and they seem like they do know so much about the good book and they know so much about God, but yet still
For
they
me,
just have that dark side.
Labo for me are just evil people who are hiding in the church.
I get you.
That's for me. It doesn't make sense. It's like a pedophile. A pedophile will choose careers that bring them close to kids. Do you know what I mean? Nobody will, it will take a while for somebody to pick up or whatever. They'll be at an ECD, they'll be looking after orphaned children. I'm not saying people who are working in these spaces are pedophiles, please, by no means. I'm just saying that in the instances where, they're prowling on kids, they're preying on kids, where are they going to find kids? They'll find themselves in areas like, areas where children are roaming the streets easily. Like we're living in this human trafficking and child sex trafficking and child murders and child, sacrifices for people to make money and all of that. We hear about these things. So the people who are, hurting these kids and have this disorder of, wanting to hurt kids sexually and whichever other way will always find themselves around children, whether it's their careers or businesses or NGOs, whatever it is that they're running. So it's the same for me. And again, I'm not criticizing abantu basemasontweni because sometimes I find they become very sensitive. But it's a coincidence that most of us experience, yeah? I mean, we all know people abasonta kakhulu, but bakhohlakele. And they're so convinced. It's like ukukhohlakala kwabo is so intense that they've convinced themselves ukuthi no bakhohlakele precisely because uJesu lives so strong in them. They justify why they should be judgmental. They justify why they should look down on other people. They justify, they use this Bible and Jesus, because it's mostly Christians, right, that I find to be that way. I'm sure there are devout Muslims and devout other religions that are also, falling in this bracket. But I often, like, enyangeni, you do find umuntu mthakathi, but abe inyanga. Why? Because that space will lend itself useful for them ukuthi bathakathe in peace. I would imagine, mawusesontweni angithi already automatically everybody assumes ukuthi ulungile.
Men of God.
Woman of God.
Woman of God.
I told you about that the priest. I went to Catholic schools from when I was very young, Catholic boarding schools. There was a priest who used to dish out begat magahambile Father Joseph. I know there's people who went to school with me. I don't know if he's still alive, but he would, whenever he'd go to Germany, because, the establishment was German run, whenever he'd go to Germany and, for whatever, or Rome, I don't know, they had these trips there to make to Rome all the time. And when he comes back, he'd bring us chocolates. And then Magabuya say all of us would have to sit on his lap to get the chocolate. And I only realized years later. Right? So isn't that a perfect place for you to hide? Mawuganga esontweni, sebenza nabantwana ezikolweni, looking after people who are vulnerable, homeless people, etc., etc. So I just think abantu abagangayo nje bayawathanda amasonto because it's a nice, the wolf in sheepskin sort of cover. It's a nice cover for them. It's comfortable because mawumbona, you're off guard. Your guard is not up because you're already, you're happy to hand yourself over to this person because according to you, umuntu othanda uNkulunkulu, okhonza uNkulunkulu, But I often find that they take their relationship with God to another level. That becomes like the primary relationship. It's like that's the only relationship they have. It's like they don't have to respect anybody else's boundaries. They don't have to, love other people the way they want to be loved because mina ngumuntu kaNkulunkulu, so I'm so special, I'm so sacred, I'm so unique that my primary relationship on earth is with God. Then why are you on earth? You know what I mean? Like, God should have just kept you kulezulu lela bathi likhona.
But why do such people Some of them even acquire wealth. Some of them, even when they can go to jail or prison for many years, they still can't be rehabilitated. And some of them even live long. And
Yeah, yeah,
still,
yeah.
there is no regret, there is no remorse for what they've done.
Yeah.
They just feel njebona.
They justify.
They
In fact,
justify,
yeah.
yeah.
The longer they exist with this thing, the more they justify it. I don't know. I mean, I also think society is to blame. Like Mina, I'm now very obsessed with this taking responsibility, running away from victimhood, you know. Abantu abakhohlakele exist in our society because we allow them. You know, I would imagine majority of society is made up of people like us who are empaths. You know, somebody misbehaves and we allow them to misbehave. I mean, if you look at the amount of corruption we're sitting with in the country, it's very clear that this corruption is actually perpetuated through the criminal justice system itself. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist, right? Because how much money do we spend on the police, on the courts, on the prosecution, on the entire criminal justice system? How much of our budget goes there? We know almost half of it goes to education or health. I don't know, between health and education, there's a competition. I'm pretty sure the next batch goes to the criminal justice system, the intelligence, the army, the whole security cluster. We have such a massive security cluster in South Africa, but the amount of corruption and just disorder and mayhem is even bigger. Why? Because I think our society is very complacent. You know, when this whole Diddy thing now is out there, and this pastor's name, what's his name?
TD
TD
Jakes.
Jakes keeps on popping up. Of course, we won't know the real truth for now. It's just allegations and
Yeah.
stuff. Some of it, of course, is evidential, you can see. But we won't know exactly what transpired there until we know, until there's a court case and these people are forced to talk. But I was mentioning this to somebody, and this person immediately, before I could even finish the sentence, they were like, yo, because Diddy is my favorite topic right now. I mean, the stuff that's coming out of there, I'm like, unbelievable freaking bill. You know, that why has this stuff been able to go on for 30 years and nobody's, doing anything serious about it? Because people love money, right? You can pay somebody to be your slave today. People just love money, and human beings just are so complacent. So I mentioned this thing to this person before ngisho igama laka TD what?
TD Jakes, yeah.
Oh, this person is a happy clappy, I normally call them, not to be derogatory, but that's the common phrase we use for people who are in charismatic.
It's Bishop TD Jakes, yeah.
Yeah, this person almost lost it. Begingathi uTD Jakes ubaba wakhe. No, sick and tired of abafundisi being blamed. I'm like, akusiyo abafundisi. These are little devils with long tails hidden in their pants. You know what I mean? You can't be telling me Bushiri. And what's the other one? The Nigerian one who's still going through court, and Zondo, who's been molesting people in his own family, in the church. You know what I mean? Like, there's something is going on with these people. You know what I mean? What the hell is going on with them? They've identified the weakness of societal, characteristics and programming. That human beings are so eager for. I suppose once we all start to appreciate how lazy people are, if I offer you something for free, I know what's going to happen. You offer me something for free, you know what's going to happen. I'm going to jump at it. And that's how normally we get gotten, right? So even in the churches, you're like, oh, come here for refuge. Oh, come here for healing. When healing is something that you do on your own, by the way. That's the real healing before you go out and share with others. And it's even toxic to do healing with other people. It's never really proper. You can't be honest with yourself and genuine. So I just think it's because these mean people have identified society's weaknesses. They've identified our weaknesses. We like to be promised heaven. Like I've been part of my journey now. I'm praying. I'm when I fast and pray, meditate, phahla ngenzani, ngemanzini, all the things I'm always praying for are centered around my reincarnation. I do not want to come back here. I don't believe this is my highest form of existence on earth. I don't believe it has been I don't believe that I'm the earth as it is, the world as it is, and the time during which I was born allowed me to be the best person I possibly could be. It was more like a hellish existence. It's more like being in a maze that you need to get out of and you don't know how to get out, and eventually you figure it out. And all you can do is get out and then slouch on the other end when you get to the exit. It's a tough battle being alive, being on earth, taking care of yourself, taking care of others, having enough to give others, having gifts that others don't have. Bakuzondele zona. Now you must justify yourself and, make yourself acceptable to people, make it easy for them to have you around them, their life, etc. Manage their jealousy. I hate managing another person. I'm not a control freak. I come across as a control freak. I suffer from perfectionism, and I suppose that's what makes me look like I'm a control freak. But there's nothing I hate more than having to manage another human being, because I don't put myself in that situation. I don't put others in that situation where they have to manage me. I take responsibility very quickly. I fix if I've done something wrong, I apologize. If I need information, I ask for it. I take responsibility all the time. And I find that in society, people don't want to take responsibility. And if you don't want to take responsibility, what's going to happen? Somebody's going to have to take responsibility for you. And the minute somebody else has to take responsibility for you, they're in charge. So if umfundisi esontweni, uthishere eklasini, ubani that you've handed over your entire life to, whether it's your spiritual life, your financial life, whatever, your material needs, naturally you're creating grounds for abuse, eh? Like you're becoming dependent on this person. There's a transaction now between you and this person. They do this for you and you just receive it and you're just so grateful. Things that you can do for yourself, like I'm saying, healing, whether it's spiritual healing or healing your physical body. I've healed my physical body. I literally have. I had to tell a gynae who operated on me some years back, who said to me, "You're going to come back, lama adhesions wako azobuya," because historically they've been proven they just come back. And I'm like, but you can't say that to me as a doctor. I'm assuming you're a scientist. You need to explain to me what are the possibilities to make this thing go. I'm not going for another operation. And this medical aid is expensive. I can no longer really afford it. I can't keep it alive just because I'm hoping that I'm going to have another op. So I'm going to do. And I did. And I meditated, fasted, prayed about it, and finally found a natural, herbal, very indigenous African cure that costs me like 10 Rand per item that I buy from the market that my friend took me to, where I can get it from the West African market. And it literally healed me. I was already on my way to the healing because I was already doing many other things, changing my diet, etc. But I took responsibility for my spiritual and physical healing. People don't want to take responsibility. They hand their entire lives over to somebody else. When that person abuses that privilege and that power, because that's giving power to somebody, saying, I need healing and I don't know where to start. Instead of saying, can you guide me? Because I really don't know what to do. Like literally, just give me guidance. Where do I look for information? Send me stuff I can read, suggest stuff I can try. People don't want to do that. They want to leave their problems on somebody else's doorstep so that they can blame someone, so that they can play victim forever, so that they can turn around and say, but when Asbu Teng mo fire is on lapa, manja laphanga.
Wona sibuthe mina ngiyeke lo msebenzi wami ngiyoba
Ngiyabe
entrepreneur.
ngiyohustlisha.
Wona manje so
Ngibona omunye when you started posting your
ngiyangihlolela. Awuzange ngithi ngiyeke imisebenzi.
Basho njalo.
Guys, I just said let's create multiple streams of income. You guys haven't read my books. Those who've read my books understand what I said and what I've been preaching. But I love you anyway.
The ones who listen. No, we're not blaming them because I can say I understand Abanya are still young, so they don't know how to get out of that victimhood mode. They still need to be given the formula. How do I stop being a victim without being overly strong? It's balance. You can't be too much of a victim. You can't be too strong. You can't be too independent. We're in a codependent existence, we are here to find our tribe. You're born into a family, but the family you ultimately end up with might not be your blood relatives. First things first, you build another family without a blood relative. The people you marry, they're not your blood relatives. Umfazi wakho akusumntana kamamako, wena usumntana kamamake, right? But you build a family with them. So, you're never going to find that ultimate fulfillment, that happiness, that sense of contentment, that sense of, I'm now comfortable with myself. I'm not forcing myself into being comfortable. Not comfortable to the point where I no longer have ambition. No. I'm just comfortable in my own skin. I'm happy with who I am. I'm happy with my mistakes. I'm happy with everything that I have, good and bad. I'm happy with my weaknesses because I now know how to manage them. I now know myself enough to know, which man so because I'm talkative, I must write myself a note on my phone and put a reminder which I must not talk la. Send anywhere, I must not. I do that. I get to places where
Yeah,
I'm just
nami
like,
ngoba ngikhuluma too much. Khona lapho nginokuzikhumbuza khona ukuthi esibuda lalela more.
and you do that. You've done that not miraculously. You've had to do work to get to that point where you can self-manage. People don't want to manage themselves. Just that guidance I was talking about. Just saying to your healer, your teacher, whoever, and then they wonder why we were called favorites at school. When you're a smart kid, you're always, ass. I don't want to say the
Teachers,
word.
yeah.
You're right, teacher's pet. Well, guess what? Maybe it's because I actually use the gray matter between my ears, which we all have. And I've realized, okay, if I want to have a peaceful day, one, kumele ngenze homework yami. Two, I must come clean and neat. Unless I don't have soap to wash my stuff, in which case I'm in boarding school, I can always borrow soap from my friend next door. Ngelinye ilanga uzoboleka kimi, izandla ziyagezana. I must avoid doing izinto that piss utishera off in front of utisha. I must wait for teachers to be gone before nganga. Like manage instead of calling people.
Timing.
Self-manage. Manage your damn self so that you don't become a nuisance to others. And that's what made us empaths. We manage ourselves so effectively that to omunye umuntu who's struggling with self-management, for whatever reason, you're an obvious solution. You're an obvious solution. And I do blame it on imperialism and capitalism. I do blame it on not colonization in of itself, but on the colonial existence that we live in, that basically decided to teach us the opposite of what we grew up learning as Africans, to say, kumele siphilisane emhlabeni, and we must leave the earth as good a shape as what we found it. Capitalism says, no, fuck that. You must explore, exploit for personal consumption endlessly, to no end. So there must be no end to what I can accumulate. And then, yes, I do love, and I believe we must respect and preserve the concept of privacy. Right to privacy, right to private ownership of things. Of course, that's an element that we must have, because baningi abantu abavilaphayo that would want to come and feed off your hard work. So yes, to some extent, capitalism is good, but the unbridled accumulation for personal benefit, unbridled, unlimited. That's the toxic component, right? So that has then brought this thing where there's slave master arrangements amongst human beings, even if it's not formal slavery, but there's dependency, interdependency. Oh no, Sbu will give me a job and pay me a monthly salary because he has a company, and because his company is making money. He can afford to employ people. And once I get into that employment, I'm going to just be an employee. I'm never going to see myself as a bigger part and another molecule, another subatomic component of this whole thing. To say, oh, by the way, Jesus who started this thing, risked his savings and other things and energy and effort and sacrificed so much to start this business where I can now get a job. How did he do it? And what is it that I need to do in my little role in this job, in this company, to help sustain it, so that I don't find myself jobless? No, we get into a job and we start being dependent. Again, you know what I mean? It's capitalism. I blame it on capitalism because pre-colonial, I would imagine Africa understood that ongasebenzi akadli. Like, that's just like common sense, right? We understood that because we were able to access things without having to have a currency, but we were trading. If I wanted something that you had, I knew based on the bartering rules that I must bring something of equal or higher value in order to get the thing that I want from you. I can't come and just at gunpoint or need demand or whatever, like in a rape situation. So I blame all of this dependency and this toxicity and the empaths and those who abuse empaths. What's the opposite of an empath? The beneficiaries of empaths.
I think this was a beautiful episode. And I wanted us to talk about the 2024 upcoming elections. And it so happened that this conversation went this way. And I loved it as it was. And thank you for that. And I appreciate this conversation. I also have had for the longest of time, or have been needing an opportunity to also, voice out my own frustrations as a recovering empath as well, using your words, right? So thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening up. I'm really looking forward to other episodes, but I think this episode was needed, not only for us, but I think also for a lot of viewers out there and for a lot of people who can relate. But in wrapping it up, and as your last words, what do we then now say to younger people whom we are teaching to be good, to give, to be kind to others, the same way we were taught, and then we realized it later, no man, I was just becoming too much of a people pleaser. What's the right message now to send to young people?
I think communication, hey? I mean, I find that a lot of young people, I don't know why, they find it difficult to communicate their feelings. If we can all learn to truly, truly, genuinely communicate our feelings, of course, to the right people, at the right time, about the right issue, at the right temperament. You know what I mean? If I'm angry and sad, it's not the right time to communicate that I'm angry and sad because I'm just going to cry the whole time. Wait until I calm down. So communication, open communication, the ability to talk about, how we feel, how we experience something to other people and also wait for them to give us feedback. I think that will solve a lot of problems. And just allowing people to be themselves and allowing people to communicate with us. If I'm doing something crazy and strange, somebody shouldn't be scared to say, you did this, it didn't sit well with me because of A, B, C, D. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it because of my own, blind spots that I have. Is it because of a blind spot or some other issue? Did you experience something like this? Is this the reason why you behave like this? Like, explain it to me so I can understand where you're coming from. I think it's about communication. We don't communicate with each other anymore. We don't sit around the table and talk with people. We don't give people a chance to be themselves. And I think for a young person who suspects they might become an empath or be becoming an empath, and they don't want to spend 50 years before they discover the toxicity, it's good to be an empath. But balance, put yourself first when necessary. Only in an emergency do you put yourself last to rescue somebody. Once they're in a safe mode, you can let them go and they carry on. But know the difference. Know when it's an emergency and when it's becoming an addiction. Spend a lot of time with yourself. Meditate, write, read. You can go to YouTube and Google any psychological condition that you suffer from. And you'll find a shrink who's going to spend 2 hours explaining it. Like literally explaining your problem, and you're sitting there like, oh, I don't need to go to a psychologist and pay a lot of money. I can just listen to doctors Mang who's verified from wherever, now I'm a registration work, explaining to me how to deal with a certain personality problem. So I think we need to spend more time with ourselves. We need to be very free and open, but respectful when we communicate with others. And I think that for me will go a long way. And I'm saying that because I never used to do that. I never used to communicate. I used to feel bad having to tell someone something negative that I was uncomfortable with.
Same here.
Lack of self-love or inadequate self-love. Because if you have enough self-love, you'll be able to approach a person. Again, you can't be arrogant about it. You approaching as right. Check, do you have time, And then no figure, be careful not to project. Just because one incident happened between you and somebody doesn't give you the right to blame this person for your life problems, So I think it's just about communication, spending time with ourselves, understanding ourselves, doing the work on ourselves. Because once we do the work on ourselves, it becomes easier to flow with others, to know when somebody needs their space and not take it personally. Oh, you never want to spend time with me. It's like, ngiyafuna, ngiyathanda, but I can't. Find somebody else, or I'll go and find you somebody. Right now, or just go and create me time, seeing as I've given you 2 hours to yourself.
Sis Mandisa Mashego, thank you. It's good to see you. I'm happy to see you looking healthy, good, fresh, uzkapile, utop. Clean when you level.
And angisadili nabantu abalokhu bathi mina ngicenga ukubuyela kuma organizations wabo ngidineka kanjani.
Oh, is that what they're saying too? Maybe let's have that conversation on another
No,
episode.
we won't. Bengihoya
Oh,
nje.
we won't. I'm a scams. Mic drop. But thank you. This was great.
Thank you.
I know a lot of you guys also wanted to hear what she has to say about the upcoming elections. I'll twist her arm to record another episode talking about the upcoming elections, because that's the biggest talk right now nationwide, and which is necessary. So go out there and vote. Are you voting?
Yes.
Nice. Your last words to the
I'll
people?
spoil a few ballots, of course, but I'm definitely voting for an independent.
Okay.
Yeah, you must go and vote,
Yeah.
but nobody knows who you're voting for.
Yeah.
So you have a right to go and scratch out the whole ballot and spoil it because they have to count it. So it affects proportionality. But going to vote is a must. If you feel there's no one, scratch the ballot. That's you saying, I didn't want to vote for any of these people.
I get you.
But you must go. Mawuvila phama queue, register as a special voter. Then you can go the day before to your voting station, unless you are cooler. Then they can come to you if you're bedridden. But go and vote and scratch out that ballot. I'm all for scratching out the ballot. Yes, I do have people I want to vote for.
Okay.
It's true.
We are wrapping up. Summer has been wrapped up already. We are getting into winter. Freedom Day is here. Youth Day is here.
When is Freedom Day again? Now in April.
27th of April, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Youth Day, obviously, the 16th of June.
Yeah.
As I'm wrapping up this episode, what memories come to your mind when I talk about those days?
I wanted to share that I got this book at the Kwanzaa celebrations in 2023. It's
Lift it up. Let
the
us
lasting
let us
tribute
see it.
to
Yeah.
Babu Eske
Show it to the
Mphahlele.
camera.
Which camera? This one? I got
Babu
it as a
Eske
gift. I won
Mphahlele.
it.
The lasting tribute.
I literally won it. And when I won it, I was buying raffles at the Kwanzaa. I was like,
Wow.
that prize is mine. So you win. And I was telling everybody, including the guy was. And then I won it. And they called out my number. And I won. I think it was number 4 or something.
Yeah.
That I bought. So it reminds me of people like Babu Eske Mphahlele beyond my own. I've got a lot of role models in my own family. So I'm fortunate. But I do think that it's time that we're in difficult times. And so young people should not feel like they're on their own. And they should not feel like, you know how this whole June 16 thing is always, oh, the youth of 76 did this for you. No. Young people should not feel like the world is on their shoulders. Take it one day at a time. Solve your own problems first before you go and join a movement to solve other people's problems and come together with others. But certainly do as much good as you possibly can. Don't put the world's problems on your shoulders. We, the older people, should also be setting an example for young people. I think it's just time to start reducing the pressure that we put on young people. They're young. They're supposed to be doing crazy things, making mistakes, learning, changing careers if they feel like it, making money, getting to know themselves, understanding what they love, where they want to live in this earth. We're now free. You can live wherever the hell you want. You don't have to be stuck in South Africa. Where they want to work, if they want to go overseas for a few years to work, earn the euro, earn the dollar, earn the pound for as long as it's still stronger than our currency. Travel the world, see things, change beliefs, change religions, explore yourself, live a little, but live responsibly because you also have yourself to carry to your adult life. When you get to my age, you don't want to have things that you did in your 20s that make it difficult now for you to be known by people because now you're ashamed. So be careful what you're doing. Young people are getting into orgies and reckless behavior, drugs, and this whole thing that's going on now. That needs to stop. That just needs to stop. We can't tolerate that. The occasional, drink now and then, it's normal if you're young. I mean, if you want to experiment with alcohol, although I don't advise it. But my biggest thing is that we should take the pressure off young people because it's their time to do certain things and they must focus on those things so that when they get to a certain age where it's now time for them to be grown-ups and, and make sure that they're there for other people who need them, that time will come. Let them enjoy their time responsibly. That's my grown-up version of it. Youth Day, this and that, the youth must. No, all of us must.
Freedom Day, 27th.
Freedom
Are
Day.
we really free?
No, of course we know we're not free for as long as you've got an imperialistic globalist world order that's removing all your rights except the right to pay tax. It's a responsibility, but it's become everything. It's like a right, it's a responsibility. You must pay tax. But you have no, authority over What happens to your taxes? But you must pay it. The street lights on Malibonga, where I live, on Malibonga Drive, have not been working now for years. But it's elections and we must vote for people who are sitting with our tax money, who will send you. I've received, I don't know how many debt collection letters from City of Joburg. I'm like, what a disgrace. Do they really want me to pay these damn rates and taxes? Haven't I done enough for society? Can't I just get my taxes scrapped? I think I've done enough. There must be something you get from being an empath, especially in politics, giving yourself like
Oh,
that.
an empath in politics. Yeah.
Well, that's why I didn't survive. So for me, Freedom Day, I suppose it's important to commemorate it. It would be stupid not to. Because the reality is that there was a system that needed to be defeated and replaced with something better. Unfortunately, it was replaced with something worse. People who only understand, again, narcissistically, that they must receive, and still steal and steal. And society sits back and does nothing. If anything, I think our Freedom Day and our Youth Day this year should be seen as a time to reflect for us, the adults in the room. Sesibadala manje, we need to give direction to those, to our own communities and societies, because, we need to give direction to each other and say to ourselves, is this what we really want? We do want to celebrate the freedom because we think it's a great feat. But do we want to celebrate freedom where we basically swapped one dictator for another? Because rampant corruption is dictatorship. It results in a certain dysfunction in society that you can't undo. It results in a dysfunctional, very corrupt society. Yeah. So for me, those are important days, but we need to think about a post-imperialistic world order. Because imperialism is government and capital together. That's the imperialism. It's not just capital. Because people make that mistake. Capital determines government, determines laws, provides the money to political parties to pass laws that we don't know about, that comes from wherever those laws come from and are imposed on us. But we are still expected to pay tax. At some point, we must say, I don't want to pay tax anymore until I can have a real say, until my wishes as a community can be respected.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mandisa Mashego. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next video. Don't forget the Podcast and Music Festival happening the 14th and the 15th of June. Come and gain knowledge. Come and network with some of the best podcasters in the country. Some of the most amazing podcasts, people that run big podcasts. If you got your own small podcast, or you'd like to start podcasting, come and learn how to start your own podcast, how to monetize your podcast, how to make it a big e-commerce business, on how you can build your own platform and also make a lot of money out of it. But also come through and have some fun, because it's Podcast and Music Festival. And we're talking about different things: podcasts in politics, sports, entertainment, music, etc. Right, so I'm looking forward to meeting you at Emperor's Palace in Ekurhuleni, Gauteng, the 14th, which will be a Friday, and the 15th of June, which will be a Saturday. Some people will be flying into Johannesburg and they're booking some hotel packages. They're booking 2-night stay or 3-night stay at Emperor's Palace. It's going to be a great weekend. So we'll see you guys at the Podcast and Music Festival. It's the first annual one. It will be happening every year. For more information, if you've got a podcast you'd like to come and exhibit, you can pay a little small fee to exhibit, and you are more than welcome to come and join us. Register on www.podcastandmusicfest.co.za. I love you guys. Have a great one. I'll see you in the next video. Danke!
Thank you.
Yo, that was nice.